It was 2008 and my parents had gone out to the casino, leaving me alone at home with my dog Abby. It was around 11 p.m. and I was sprawled out in front of my computer, cycling through instant messenger chats and random YouTube videos, my headphones drowning out the quiet hum of the house. Then, without warning, Abby started barking. It wasn't the playful, tail-wagging kind of bark. It was sharp, aggressive, the kind that cuts through the air and makes your skin prickle. I ignored it at first, assuming my parents had just pulled into the driveway, but when the barking didn't stop, I pulled off my headphones and strained to listen. Abby was in the living room, facing the front windows, her hackles up, teeth bared. I walked over, trying to peer through the darkened glass, but the driveway was empty. No headlights, no crunch of gravel, just darkness. I frowned, giving Abby a reassuring pat, and tried to convince myself it was just a passing car or a neighbour pulling into their driveway. I returned to my room, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. A few minutes later I heard it, a faint rustling sound from the front door, followed by a light knock. My heart stuttered. I froze, listening, waiting for a voice, a familiar sound, but there was nothing. Just the low, uneasy growl coming from Abby as she paced back and forth, her claws clicking against the hardwood. I crept back into the living room, my pulse thudding in my ears. I leaned in to check the front door lock, my fingers trembling slightly. It was secure. I let out a shaky breath, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. Then came the sound that pushed my fear into overdrive. A scraping metallic jingle from the basement door. My heart lurched. The basement door was outside, hidden beneath our deck, accessible only by walking around the entire house. It was the kind of entrance you had to know existed or be desperate enough to find. Abby, sensing my fear, let out a deep, guttural growl and bolted for the basement stairs, barking wildly. She skidded to a stop at the top, teeth bared, her body a coiled spring of tension. I felt a cold wave of panic wash over me. I grabbed the landline, because this was before I had a cell phone, and darted into my parents' room, grabbing my dad's old hunting rifle from the closet. I sat there, crouched in the corner, phone clutched to my ear, ready to dial 911. My mind raced through the possibilities. Had someone broken in? Were they still outside? How did they even know about the basement door? Just as my pulse started to even out, the front door creaked open. My breath hitched, my finger hovering over the call button. Then I heard my dad's voice calling for Abby. Relief hit me like a wave, and I stumbled into the living room, guns still in hand, as my parents stepped inside, their faces a mix of confusion and concern as Abby danced around their feet, her tail wagging furiously. I babbled out the whole story, my parents listening, their expressions darkening as I recounted the noises, the attempts at the basement door. My dad, face tight with anger, immediately grabbed his own gun and swept through the house, checking every room, every corner, but nothing. The next morning, still shaken, I heard a knock at the front door. My stomach dropped. I watched from the hallway as my dad opened the door to reveal my Uncle Pete, holding an envelope. Uncle Pete? I tried to stop by last night to drop this off, but no one was home. My heart nearly stopped. My dad's face twisted in anger, his voice low and dangerous. He exchanged a few sharp words with my uncle before slamming the door shut. He handed me the envelope, a thank you card and a gift card for helping my cousin with her softball lessons. I felt a mix of relief and lingering fear. My uncle, the man who had always given me the creeps, had been the one outside my house trying to get in through the basement. To this day I still have so many questions. Why come so late? Why try to get in through the basement? And most unsettling of all, what would have happened if Abby hadn't been there to sound the alarm? Have you ever felt like you were being watched in your own home? That unsettling feeling that you're not as alone as you think? I learned the hard way just how real that fear can be. When I was 22, I moved into the downstairs apartment of my parents' house. It was a great setup. My own mini kitchen, living room, bedroom and bathroom separated from the main house by a lockable door in the stairway. It had its own side entrance too, giving me a little more freedom. One weekend, my parents were out of town, so I invited my friends Anthony and Jay over. We cranked up the music, cracked open some cold drinks and let the night roll on as we watched the hockey game. The fridge in my apartment was tiny, so we kept the main door to the house unlocked for easy access to my parents' larger fridge upstairs. By the time the game ended, we were all buzzed and decided to crash. My couch was massive, easily fitting the two of them, so I said goodnight and headed to my bedroom. I locked my door, a habit I never break, and fell into a deep, slightly tipsy sleep. A few hours later, I snapped awake. My room was silent, but my pulse raced as I realized what had probably woken me. Faint, deliberate footsteps from the floor above. I tried to brush it off, assuming it was one of my friends stumbling around for water or a late-night snack. But then my bedroom doorknob rattled. My breath caught in my throat as the handle twisted slightly, testing the lock. My mind raced. Why would one of my friends be trying to come into my room in the middle of the night? I kept still, straining to hear. The handle jiggled once more, then stopped. Silence crept back in, and I convinced myself it was just a weird, drunken mistake. I drifted back to sleep, my mind still hazy. The next morning, Anthony had already left, but Jay was still sprawled out on the couch, groggy and rubbing his eyes. I casually asked if he had tried to come into my room last night, but he just frowned, his memory fuzzy from the drinks. I let it slide, telling myself I was just being paranoid. That night I got home late after a long day out, too tired to overthink the previous night's weirdness. I grabbed a quick snack, washed up and crawled into bed, letting my TV distract me. As soon as I turned the TV off, I heard it again. Slow, creaking footsteps directly above me, followed by the faint sound of a door hinge groaning. My heart pounded and I sat up, every nerve in my body on high alert. Then, just like the night before, my bedroom doorknob twisted, only this time there was a soft, deliberate knock. Ah! I froze, clutching my phone, my mind racing through every possibility. Was this some kind of prank? Had one of my friends come back? I fired off a flurry of texts, but deep down I knew the truth. This wasn't one of my friends. I dialed 911, whispering to the operator, trying to keep my voice steady as I explained the situation. I didn't dare move from my bed until I heard a faint tap at my bedroom window. The police had arrived. I quickly opened the window, handed an officer my spare key, and waited, every second dragging on as my heart pounded in my chest. Minutes later, I heard the side door creak open as the officers swept through my apartment, then moved upstairs. I heard them call out, their voices echoing through the house, followed by a burst of muffled shouting. My heart nearly stopped when I heard a struggle. I crept to the bottom of the stairs, my body trembling. I took one shaky step into the hallway and caught a glimpse of the officers dragging a tall, dishevelled man from my parents' bedroom. His eyes met mine for a split second, and the cold, hateful glare he shot me still haunts me. The police later told me he was likely a homeless man who had snuck in, possibly while we were blasting music with the doors unlocked. My parents, shaken but relieved, chose not to press charges, hoping to just move past the nightmare. But I still can't shake the thought. How long had he been in the house, silently moving through the rooms above me, completely unnoticed? It all began when I moved into an old Victorian house I inherited from my grandmother.
This wasn't just any house, it had been in our family for generations, sitting quietly on the edge of a small town. To anyone else, it might have seemed like a charming, peaceful place, but to me it felt alive with secrets. The moment I stepped inside, I could feel it. The weight of history pressing down, the creaking floors, whispering stories I couldn't quite catch. At first I was thrilled to have my own space, but as days turned to nights, a creeping unease settled in. The first strange thing was the attic. Every night, like clockwork, I'd hear muffled thumps. Soft at first, then growing louder. I told myself it was just the old house settling, but deep down I knew it wasn't. The noises felt deliberate, like footsteps pacing just out of sight. Then came the little things going missing, a book here, a hairbrush there. I blamed myself, maybe I was just tired and forgetful. But soon it was worse. One morning I woke up to find my kitchen ransacked, cupboards wide open, dishes scattered everywhere, and the back door slightly open when I was sure I'd locked it. That's when panic really set in. Someone had been inside while I was asleep. Food started disappearing too. Groceries I'd just bought vanished overnight. Dirty dishes appeared in the sink that weren't mine. And clothes I hadn't worn showed up in the laundry. It was clear I wasn't alone in the house. Then came the night I'll never forget. It was well past midnight, when a loud crash downstairs jolted me awake. My heart pounded as I listened. Silence, except for the heavy breathing I thought I imagined. Grabbing the flashlight from my nightstand, I crept down the stairs. Every creak echoed, my nerves raw. And then I saw him, a shadowy figure moving in my kitchen. Our eyes locked, both shocked. The man was disheveled, wild-eyed, and clearly just as startled as I was. Then he lunged. I screamed, stumbled back and dropped the flashlight. Darkness swallowed the room as he closed in. Desperate, I fumbled for the door handle and burst outside, screaming for help. The police came quickly, but my mind was racing. Hours later, they emerged with the man in handcuffs. His face was empty, like he belonged to some other world. In the days that followed, I learned the horrifying truth. He'd been living in my attic for weeks, hidden away, stealing food, moving silently through my home while I slept just rooms away. The attic was filled with his makeshift bed and my missing things. For all that time, a stranger had been lurking above me, watching, waiting, unseen.